Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Liverpool.com podcast. I am Kristian Walsh, and with me, I'll start again. That's terrible. Nice. I did it in one take last time. Right, here we go.
You won the league, Chris. Come on, energy.
That's it. I'm just.
Hello, everyone. Come on.
Hello. Yeah. There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Liverpool.com podcast. I am Kristian Walsh, and joining me today are Liverpool.com writers Joe Rabinowitz and Ollie Connolly. Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm okay. I'm okay. We've had a quiet week. We haven't had much to do. We won't have much to talk about today, but that'll be fine. I'm sure we'll get through it.
Fresh off the back of your stunning appearance in BT's emotional roller coaster ride.
Yeah, I am forever a part of history. I look a little bit different now. If no one knows what we're on about, by the way, good. But, you know, have a look at, do you know what? I mean, we'll get straight to it. Liverpool Football Club are champions of England. I've spent the last 48 hours either A, working, or B, sobbing into a tub of Haagen-Dazs, watching all of the montages. That's Sky Sports and BT Sports and any other internet provider, any other football channel, anyone that you want to sort of mention. They've all been bringing it out. Bleacher Report, that got me right in the fields as well. Gentlemen, Liverpool are Premier League champions. I feel a little bit like we're the Adrian of the podcast world because this is our second show. We had our first show last week and everybody was, sort of really, happy with it and it seems to go down quite well. This is the second show and 2 shows in, silverware.
Yeah, we've timed it well, haven't we? Release of that.
We might as well finish now. There's no coming back.
Completed it. Podcasting done.
That's it. Came on, saved a couple of penalties in the shootout. There we are, finished. So yeah, we are going to start. Obviously, we're going to talk a hell of a lot about Liverpool being champions. No doubt you will have heard everything about it already, but we're going to try and, as we always do on Liverpool.com, to give it a little bit of a different take, a little bit of a different perspective of what's happened over the past 48 to 72 hours. We are recording this on Sunday afternoon, which is probably just about the time when things are starting to die down slightly. I think a lot of heads are starting to sort of clear up now. It's starting to sink in, and I think life is going back to as normal as it can be. So yes, Liverpool are the champions. First of all, guys, just want to talk about the night itself. How did you watch it? And I'm sort of asking this. This is maybe for our viewers and our listeners because we were all speaking to each other on the night. But how did you watch it? How different was it to what you expected watching Liverpool's first title in 30 years to be?
I'll say for me, it was. I could not believe how nervous I got an hour before kickoff. It's almost like that innate feeling that you just knew this was the night. And then as it rolled along, it was just the most bizarre feeling, as it didn't matter at all. They were going to win the title at some point, but there was just a feeling that, as I think all of us wrote this week, that there's this kind of two-parter feeling of the night before being a real champion's performance. That was kind of the coronation of things, and then to actually seal it the next night was perfect. And that match gave you this kind of like winner-take-all cup final vibe, like the 20-minute assault where City drew level, then Sterling hit the post, and there was that really feeling that it's got to be decided tonight, even though it didn't. And so when the Williams scored the penalty in the final whistle, you had that kind of like woomph of emotion as if you won a cup final. It was kind of bizarre, and I actually found that almost more entertaining than if they just won it against Palace and they were knocking the ball around the back for 20 minutes at the end. There was something about it, and then seeing them watch it, there was an experience you would never have picked if you'd been offered it, but then it almost just felt right in the moment.
Yeah, I'm the same. I wanted it to happen that way, actually, because like Ollie's touched on there, I think the Palace 4-0 was just so refreshing and so emphatic to see them playing like that again after such a long time, and obviously after the kind of anti-climax of the derby, to see that 4-0 be the last performance before they became champions. And then the thing is, with Liverpool winning it while not playing, it felt we didn't really miss out on all that much, because if that was just in normal circumstances and we won the league when City dropped points anyway, we'd all have been watching it on TV kind of together at the same time. The players probably would have been watching it together, which they were. So it wasn't like you missed out on being at Anfield to see the moment. The match itself was, I couldn't believe how stressful it was, especially that second half when Sterling hits the post shortly after the De Bruyne free kick, and then there's the one when Pulisic rounds the keeper and Walker somehow clears it off the line. And then I didn't even realise that Fernandinho had actually handballed it. I was just trying to work out how Abraham hadn't scored in the first place. And then they brought it back for the red card and the VAR and the penalty. And I'll admit it, I had to go out the room. I couldn't watch the penalty. I was too nervous because I was like, if this goes in, that is it. It's over.
The ultimate case of a guilty face from Fernandinho as well. You couldn't give that penalty. Unbelievable. Yeah.
It's so surreal, kind of like there was two teams playing that match, and the two teams that were playing the match with the least important thing going on there. Even in the commentary, I think if you were a City or City or Chelsea fan watching that, you'd probably be like, mind talking about us a little bit here, because it was all about Liverpool in the end, really, and kind of you're basically living through Chelsea, which is quite an odd experience. But yeah, it was surreal. And then when the final whistle went, and that was it. And then you see the tweet from the official Liverpool account, and you're like, yeah, it's actually happened.
I think the last 10 minutes was strange in terms of it was almost like a montage in your own head, I think, where, I mean, we've spoken before, I think, and we will speak about it, on the show later, but you speak about the Champions League and how it's different because it's that one moment, it's the Origi bang, Liverpool are European champions, it's happened. Whereas obviously, I mean, this is a much longer time frame. This is a 30 years. This is so many false dawns and near misses and all of that sort of thing. And we've always said that it wouldn't have a moment. It wouldn't be a moment. And that's the way it was in terms of, but once Willian scored, it was almost like you knew City weren't coming back. As unrealistic as it was, that they would come back. I think we all sort of said to ourselves that it maybe could happen, but at that point we sort of knew, and then that's where the thoughts come, and you've almost got like between 82 and 96 minutes, so you've got like 15-minute time frame there to sort of come to terms with everything as the game's still being played out. So it was just it was incredible. It was I'd never thought I would literally watch Liverpool win a Premier League title in an absolute oven of a flat, sitting in my boxer shorts. Like it's the most it's unreal.
It felt so destined, that fact that it was Palace for the night before, then it was Chelsea and City. You have Willian scoring.
Had to be Chelsea.
Who's got former protege at Dortmund. It all sort of came together.
And of course, Lampard's involved, because why wouldn't Lampard be involved? It felt right.
Yeah, I was. It was an incredible day, and one that we won't sort of forget for a long time. So sort of we touched upon it there in terms of the emotions that we had throughout the 90 minutes and beyond. Just want to talk about the aftermath. So I sort of completely and utterly sort of peeking behind the curtain here, but we were sort of discussing on within the Blood Red team, myself and Paul Wheelock, in the weeks and, to be honest, months, when we realised this is what was potentially going to happen. We were sort of talking about how to cover it from a Blood Red perspective. And obviously you hopefully you'll be listening to this or watching this on the Blood Red channel, even though this is a Liverpool.com offering. We all are part of one big team, and we were talking about what do we do on the night, how do we cover it, do we have somebody there, like Kai Delaney, Sam Fedrizi, do we have somebody there? And I just assumed that nothing would happen. I thought it'd be a case of Liverpool have won the Premier League, everyone stays in the gardens, and sort of celebrates in that way. But I mean, BT flashed it up about 5 minutes before fans started to congregate around Anfield. We'll talk about that a bit deeper in a bit. But in the aftermath, what did you do? What did you want to do? Were you happy? Are you at peace the way you celebrated it yourself? What was it like for you, sort of, when that whistle went?
I was happy. I immediately clicked on your face. It just popped up on YouTube. I immediately went on YouTube to try and watch some post-game reaction. There you were in your little Zoom call. I was I did that. I was writing on deadline basically because we'd spoken during the day, being like, "Well, what should we do? Should we pre-prepare something?" But then it won't have the emotion. I just had a sense that there was going to be something specific to the game and some kind of emotional fraughtness that you would only be able to articulate having watched the game. And then I wrote what was essentially a hodgepodge of just nothingness that was, I think, the feelings. It's just like, I don't know what's happening right now, but it's happening and it's all in our brains, and let's get it on paper. So I immediately went to write. I don't know about you, Joel.
Yeah, I just sort of sat and basically just watched all the Zoom calls happening on TV at the time. So obviously you had Kenny first, and you see Klopp crying, Henderson pretty much in tears, and then Van Dijk did one where the players all came and hijacked the interview and started singing, and then seeing all like the clips and basically living it through like social media, because what else can you do? Messaging people who I've kind of been through this with. I just watched it at home, my family really, and then once all that was over, there was no sleep being had at that point. So I just basically had a drink in the garden and just started writing some thoughts, which ended up on our website. Hope that they'd make sense the following morning. But yeah, it's just sort of felt like that was the right way to go about it. Obviously, today and in the weeks ahead, we'll have loads of stuff looking back on it in kind of more detail at specific moments and stuff. But I think then I just wanted to have something to just sort of explain how it felt, which was, I think, the most overwhelmed I've ever felt about anything to do with football, really. And I include Madrid last year in that. I think I wrote something this morning on the different stuff I felt, at least, between Madrid and this, and they're both amazing achievements in very different ways. And obviously Madrid was kind of the first one for this team and the first one for Klopp, and it felt huge for that moment. But as I was saying to you earlier, no one was that invested in the Champions League campaign really until kind of after the group stage and when they beat Bayern Munich, and it was kind of weirdly on the back burner, not like a secondary distraction or anything, but like it wasn't the primary focus. So when Madrid happened, and that was kind of post missing out on the league by a point, it was more like we have to finish with something to have something to take away from this season. Whereas this one has just been, every season you've gone into throughout your life following Liverpool has been with this ultimate goal in mind, and it's never happened. We've come close several times, and yeah, it was just sort of a lot to process. Probably hasn't sunk in yet, I don't think, really. And yeah, Friday was just a whirlwind, really. I hope you're waking up hoping that it was all actually a thing that actually happened, which it was. But yeah,
I was surprised how emotional I was, because you know, you think about it a lot, and it's like, well, of course I'm going to be emotional. It's going to finally happen. It's all the pain, the hurt, and then finally it pays off. But being so far in front and just knowing it was going to happen at some point now, I almost was worried going through kind of the 3-month pause in play of like, am I going to be faking it? Am I going to be pretending that I'm not emotional, but really deep down here, I'm not that stunned? Because I've already had, as we've talked about before, Leicester Boxing Day, Wolves away, the realization moments when you scream in your pillow like, oh my God, it's actually happening, was in those moments. And I was like, am I going to be faking it when it happened? And then they all just flooded over me. And then I read Joel's piece, which almost made me cry, which is I'm not embarrassed of. Then I read Chris's piece the next day, where I was like, Jesus, what is happening right now? I had to walk around for a bit. Mrs. looking at me like, are you okay? I'm like, I just need like 5 to 10. 5 to 10.
I think the thing with it is that because we've known for so long, I think since, I know me and Chris said it was Wolves away, but that was when it was confirmed. But you had a pretty strong sense for kind of December, some people probably even late November time, that it was going to happen. But it's the fact that you were so close to the finishing line, and we were having these conversations in early March, and then you go through that 3 months of just not knowing if you get to see the end of this, which would have just been unimaginable. And obviously there's more serious stuff going on, but to see them get that close and do what they did and have it kind of the finishing line basically right in front of you, and then just to have the possibility of it not seeing it through to its conclusion, I think that's what makes it feel not sweeter than it was, but there's an added relief. And I think the relief, well, certainly for me, is not just a personal thing, but it's about the players and the team. I didn't want to see their work and their achievement kind of ripped away, which effectively was something that a lot of people were asking to happen at one point. So yeah, it's all those things. It's relief, it's pride, but it's also just grateful that we've actually seen them get the reward that they deserve in the end.
I think I can sum it up in a couple of words. So I sobbed, I wrote or worked, I drank, I zoomed, and I slept. And that was pretty much my 4 hours after full time. Made a couple of calls to people and that kind of thing. It was incredible. And then as you know, you've alluded to it there, lads. But you know, we had to write. It's really weird, you know. Sort of, obviously, I've been at the sort of at reach, if you will. So Liverpool Echo and all its various other projects since 2014. So you know, I sort of went, well, I didn't work the Europa League final because I was there. I've actually booked the holiday and was, you know, sort of, luckily I was there. Kiev, I was working in the office on the night. And when you're in the office and in that sort of situation, it's crazy. It didn't register that Liverpool lost in the way because there were so many storylines out of it. Oh my God, Ramos, Salah. Oh my God, Karius. You know, oh my God, what's going on, sort of thing. It didn't really register. And then, you know, 2019, I was in Madrid, so I didn't have to work it. Didn't work in terms of writing the Premier League, sort of just missing out on it. So this is the first time really that, in a working capacity, Carabao Cup 2016 on penalties as well, Community Shield this season. So this is the first time, you know, I've actually had a chance to properly write about a trophy win and a triumph for Liverpool, and I couldn't. And I know that sounds really sort of, I don't know if it's unprofessional. I had something already prepared, which I published, but I was so emotionally and physically and creatively drained because we've been writing about this for so long, you know, not just on Liverpool.com this past year, but it feels like, well, I joined the Echo in February 2014, 2 days after Liverpool beat Arsenal 5-1. So I literally was parachuted in at a time when the title was very much a thing. So, you know, it's always been there. And finally got the chance to do it. So I had that sleep, you know, 4 hours sleep, and then managed to write, you know, the piece that I wrote about, you know, how I've never really understood Bill Shankly. And it's kind of made me feel guilty because you hear of all of these older generation of Liverpool fans and why, you know, why he's such a great man and how he sort of is something completely special to Liverpool and how there'll never be another like him. And I got that, and I understand why people said that, but I didn't feel it. You know, I appreciate him. I think he's clearly a great fella, but he's so much in the past for me. You know, he sadly passed 6 years before I was even born. You know, he retired in 1974, which is, you know, 13 years before I was born. So I just wanted to sort of write from a perspective that I get it now. You know, I sort of understand. I'll be boring the backsides off my kids and my grandkids about Jurgen Klopp for the next 50, 60 years, if I'm lucky enough to live that long. And that's the moment I sort of understood it. And I understand why people get teary-eyed over him. You know, less so Paisley, even though Paisley obviously was a brilliant manager as well. You know, even Kenny. I understand it with Kenny, and you know, when Kenny came on the screen with his Liverpool hat on and his glass of champagne, it was like, bloody hell, like that's, you know, that's hitting you right in the feels. But only now do I understand all of that with Jurgen Klopp. So that's why I wrote what I wrote. Don't know if you guys want to sort of why you wrote what you wrote. I mean, Joel, yours was, both of them were absolutely fantastic. I thought, Ollie, yours was sort of, as you say, you just got your feelings out there on the night, and then Joel, yours was sort of the idea of the big journey. So I just wanted to sort of, why did you sort of write what you wrote, and what did it feel like writing about a Liverpool title win after all these years?
Go ahead, Ollie.
No, you go ahead.
No, let's go Ollie first. Ollie was the one who got it up first.
Fair enough.
That'll be a joy to read in 10 years. Jeez.
It's great.
It's weird for me because now I tweeted this the other day. So I massive Boston sports fan, lived out there for a while. I've now covered a Red Sox World Series for Major League Baseball. Patriots, the greatest Super Bowl comeback, the Patriots over the Falcons, which is basically the Istanbul of Super Bowls. For the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, so against the away team. Then the Patriots, the final Brady Belichick Super Bowl for the Guardian as a national guy, and then a Liverpool title win for the Echo and Liverpool.com. It's pretty good. That's basically me done now. I think that I can just retire happy. I'm done with the sports writing. There's no way to get past them. So all that I think was baked into it. Mine was kind of a gamer that was more with just the raw emotions, none of the journey, just what are you feeling right in these 50 minutes after the match where you're not thinking or feeling anything, but you're feeling all of it as well. And that was kind of the concept of it, of just getting it all out there. And the thing that really got me was, like I was saying, with me being worried about, like, would I be faking it a little bit? Similar with when the videos were going to come out of them, would they be as into it watching it on a screen as maybe they would have been if it was happened at home to Palace, or obviously if there was a crowd there or not? And when you saw what it meant to them to finally get it done, that took it to a whole other level for me in terms of writing that night, because everything I would have hoped to have seen from them, even if you weren't in Anfield and just watching it at the pub with mates or whatever you were doing, you saw them do wherever they were doing, golf club, wherever they were.
How about you, Joel?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, so I remember the day Klopp was appointed. It was my first week at university in 2015, so I remember it very well.
Make me feel old.
I was about to say.
Yeah, so that stands out as a kind of very obvious kind of marker point. And I remember around that time, we'd obviously drawn against Everton in Rodgers' final game, and I'd just been to the 1-1 against Norwich at Anfield. And I remember just around that time, it felt like a chore. I don't like to say that to watch Liverpool, but it felt like something you had to do out of duty as opposed to something that you were looking forward to as a highlight of your week. And so, this piece was kind of a reflection on that and kind of how we've moved towards this point, but also kind of, I do remember specifically in February walking in when all the kind of the virus stuff was in the news, but not something that we were really kind of sure how big the magnitude of it was going to be, and just feeling paranoid that this was going to somehow affect things. And I remember people in the office saying like, "Oh, you need to chill out. It's going to be fine." And I was like, "Honestly, this is going to be bad. This is going to get in the way of something here." And then obviously it comes, and then you reach a point in March or April or whatever when everything stops, where you feel almost, well, I certainly felt almost a sense of guilt that like I shouldn't care that much about something that's when there's all this horrific stuff going on, but you still do, because it matters. It's part of your identity. It's part of well, for us, it's part of what you do for a job. For some people, it's the main part of their social lives. It's who they are. It's a thing they look forward to. So when that's all taken away so suddenly, it's that's hard to process. So the fact that we've kind of been through what we've been to up to that point, then had all of that madness, and then to come out the other side of it, it is overwhelming. And I think I said it in the piece that like, even when we were 20 odd points clear or something, and mathematically it was as near as certain as you can possibly get that Liverpool were going to win this thing, there was a tiny percentage of me that was just like, this is not Liverpool. It can't be this straightforward that after 30 years we just cruise basically without challenge to the finish line with nothing getting in the way. And lo and behold, this thing comes around and we have to wait a little bit longer. So yeah, it did feel Liverpool broken a record here for winning the earliest title in terms of games to play at the latest date that's ever been won. I mean, that is just the most Liverpool thing ever, I think.
That's your asterisk, isn't it, really? Thought about an asterisk, which they shouldn't be. Just want to point out, I'm obviously not laughing about the virus. I am laughing remembering Joel coming into the office and being very vocally worried about the prospect of...
Joel at first had Brendan Rodgers type irrational confidence, and that this is nothing, don't worry about it, ridiculous. I convinced myself it would all be okay. Yeah.
And then it just, as it starts, it's sort of obviously, the tragedy of the death toll around the world, and you just go, nah, I still won't. It's football, it's football. Like they'll find a way, and then all of a sudden you realise this is Joel was right. Basically, Joel was right to be worried. And I don't think he was the only one. I think he was probably just the only one who was brave enough to admit it, because I know I certainly was. It's probably been forgotten, but this is Liverpool's 4th trophy in a year. And surely they're the only club to ever win a top-flight domestic title in a European Cup in June. That feels bizarre because, I mean, the European Cup's normally won in May as well. So I don't know, that was on June 1st last year. But obviously the different emotions of all 4. Ollie, it's strange how, like, because of the Premier League, you almost now forget about what's come before. But Liverpool were crowned world champions at Qatar in December, and it was amazing. Liverpool beat Chelsea in a really weird Super Cup that felt like it was far more important than it probably was because it was against Chelsea. They won that on penalties, and nobody was really bothered. It was just kind of funny because Adrian saved the penalty. So I think Liverpool, in a way, have almost had every potential type of trophy winner over the past year, haven't they?
Yeah, Joel nailed it with his piece this morning in terms of one of them being, that most people, so in our age bracket, the European Cup, we saw one and we saw almost the perfect one. And so you're either too young to have really felt the hurt of the league title, or you're in the older age bracket where you actually saw one, because though 30 years is a long time ago, it's not that long ago that a lot of people, say people like my dad's age, have aged out of having seen one. So you've got these people, us 3 in particular, in this very narrow demographic where we've actually seen a European Cup. And so as special as that is, we're hunting one thing. I think the other 2 are fascinating just in so much as if it was just them on their own, not that you could just win one of them on their own, but just say, hypothetically, that it's not that big of a thing. But once you get 4, then it's a great thing. And it's great to just be the first team, to be able to say, because just the quirk of the virus and what have you, be the only British team to have had all 4 medals at one time. It won't be able to happen again. So you'll always just be able to throw it out there just to annoy the people when they bring up an asterisk or whatever. You'll always have the picture of the 4 medals and what have you. It's a mad roller coaster ride to have all 4 and to come in such different circumstances. I was surprised how much I enjoyed the Club World Cup. I've always been frustrated by that tournament and not. I've always loved the idea of going over to play at Botafogo away, or the way they run it to me is I think a shame that it could be so much more than it is. But I actually really, really enjoyed it in the moment.
Joel, I don't know about you, but for me, I think Ollie's touched upon it there. I think the Club World Cup was sneakily one of the highlights of the past 5 years. I think that the relief that they finally done it, because it was obviously this sort of monkey on their back. And also the way that game transpired, and how bad that referee was. And this idea that Liverpool are clearly so much better than Flamengo. But the Flamengo, why have all of a sudden this really good Brazilian team turned up out of nowhere? Why can't they just be playing some frauds from Ecuador? And it was just, but it just sums up the whole season, doesn't it, in terms of that it's been such a campaign that winning a Club World Cup and becoming world champions almost goes under the radar.
Yeah, it's funny that the Club World Cup, there's like a kind of overriding sort of sneering attitude towards it from sort of the English side, certainly definitely not from like the South American teams. I agree completely. I have really fond memories of watching that. It is one of my favourite moments of the season. I often, when I look back on seasons, it's like where you were when you watched the match and who you were with. And it was around just before Christmas, wasn't it? And I'd just gone up. I was visiting family up in Scotland, watching that game, and I do remember watching it so well, the final, and just really, really wanting to see Liverpool win it. It wasn't like a kind of happy to be there, how great is this sort of thing. Like, and as you say, it was a mad match, that final, because obviously you had the penalty which was given in the last minute and then taken away. And yeah, you don't know a lot of these players from Flamengo, so it's a really weird sort of situation. You don't really have any sort of measuring stick. Like, I mean, are they as good as, I don't know, Wolves, Man United? Are they a mid-table Premier League? There's no real gauge. So it was a real unknown. And then, yeah, when Firmino scored that one, I mean, if anyone had any doubt what it meant to the players, the celebrations after that were incredible. So that was great. I also love the Super Cup as well, which again, it's strange. Those two trophies are effectively kind of invite only, basically. You have to win a Champions League to get them. So it's easy to kind of talk them down as kind of small achievements, but you have to win the biggest trophy in club football, apart from the Premier League, to get there. That was a mad game as well. I was in the office doing that one for work, and again, the celebrations when the penalty shootout happened with Adrian being I think that was his first start, wasn't it? Because he'd come off the bench against Norwich and then was thrown straight in there. And then I think that was Mane's first appearance of the season, because he'd missed all of pre-season and was just basically missed the first game and came straight in the Super Cup and scored twice. And I think in terms of this team, it was important to kind of, because they won the Champions League and that was the first silverware we'd had since 2012, the League Cup. So to kind of get into a rhythm of actually just winning stuff, to win the Super Cup a few weeks into the season and then kind of as a kind of halfway point of a campaign become world champions, it just sort of confirmed that they were not nearly men anymore, basically, and that they were just going to basically keep on winning things. And yeah, it is quite nice to be able to call yourself, even if it is a quirk of the mad situation we're in, simultaneously European world and English champions.
It's a great sentence. It's like a boxing situation where you hold all three of the belts.
Undisputed.
Every piece I will slide the sentence in wherever possible.
I just wanted the gold badge on the shirt. That's what I wanted. Yeah. That thing looked brilliant. It's a shame you can't wear it in the league.
It's such a funny tournament how it's set up to basically embarrass the European teams, because if you don't win it, it becomes like a big thing, and if you do win, it's like, well, you're supposed to win it. You got like 30 times the budget of the South.
Real Madrid won about 4 in a row, didn't they, at one point?
Yeah. I do think the winning is a habit thing Joel touched on there is actually quite an important point, because something I've always admired with Guardiola, whether it was at Barcelona or Bayern and then with City, and it's interesting how frustrated he gets with the British media over the dominance of the cup competitions, and how much he's willing to put his first team out no matter what against everyone, because it's a real thing. You cannot question it. And when you get a generation of players like this that Liverpool have, why would you not want to cash in on every single opportunity? And if it ends up being 9, 10, 12 over the span of Klopp being here, now you've got to try and win every single thing imaginable, because there's never going to be a situation like this again where you get this generational manager at the apex of his powers with all these players that ordinarily you just wouldn't be able to assemble the squad on the budget they did. You have to cash in and win everything you can.
I also just had a little check there. Chelsea didn't win the Super Cup in 2012, nor the Club World Cup, and even Man United in 2008 didn't win it. They lost to Zenit St. Petersburg. So it just, again, it almost highlights that consistency of Liverpool to get themselves up and make that a habit where, Man United in 08-09 had an incredible football team, but they had an off night against Zenit St. Petersburg. It was a good team as well, of course, and it just shows you for Liverpool to, all right, on penalties, but to beat Chelsea, to win the Champions League, of course, to beat Flamengo, and now to do it this way, just some football team, probably almost undeniably the best we'll ever see. Just wanted to mention a little bit about Thursday and Friday night. I think we probably do need to address it. I think it'd be remiss of us not to mention it. So I'll just sort of start off, and I don't think either of these were right. If you're not aware, by the way, of what we're talking about, so obviously Thursday you will see all the incredible pictures from Anfield, where it looked like the type of thing that you'd see abroad, if you know what I mean. So you sort of it'd be going viral.
That, juniors,
yeah. Exactly. Look at Buenos Aires, turn red and white sort of thing, and it was basically. For the fact that these pictures were being shared in WhatsApp groups around Italy and Spain and France and South America, from fans of other clubs, just go and get on this. This is incredible. So you will no doubt see that. Maybe or maybe not. You will see what happened the day after, when let's say a few thousand as a estimate. Congregated in the pier head in their Liverpool city centre by the Liver buildings. It pretty much descended into a bit of a farce. there was a fair bit of disorder, and there was even video evidence, and somebody has since been arrested and charged with throwing a firework at the live building, which sort of set the... It didn't set the building on fire, not that it matters. I think it was like artificial grass on one of the balconies, but, you know, it was this horrible, horrible sort of vision of an image of the live buildings, you know, sort of being attacked by fireworks, and it wasn't good whatsoever. You know, in terms of where we are with the current pandemic, you know, neither was right. But I was surprised, and I don't know what you guys think. I'll go to you first, Joel. I was surprised that Liverpool and their fans got such a free pass about what happened on Thursday. I saw it happen, and I thought, this is really good. Everyone deserves to be letting their hair down, but there was still a part of me going, this really shouldn't be happening. I thought we'd wake up the next morning and it'd be splashed all across the front pages. But thankfully, it seemed like people sort of understood that this was 30 years of pent-up emotion. And even though it wasn't right, it was kind of understandable.
Yeah, no, completely. When I first saw the pictures, I was like a bit uneasy, to be honest. It was kind of, you simultaneously get the reasons why people are doing that. Again, it's not just the 30 years, but people have literally been stuck in their houses for 3 months. So when something like that happens, it's not to kind of condone it or say that it's right, but you can kind of get it. And it's easy for me to say because I wasn't in Liverpool at the time. I'm coming back up next week. But yeah, I didn't think it looked great at the time. And as I say, I was surprised that the media didn't make such a big deal of it at the time. The next day is very different because the dust has settled by that point, and it's more of a kind of premeditated, we're going to go here and do this thing. And as you say, there's no kind of distancing going on. You've got the fireworks. And I think the thing with the fireworks, you see the video and it's like, there's not loads of people telling him not to do it or kind of shouting it down. So it was disappointing. And I think the important thing to say here is that, like, yes, these are Liverpool fans or football fans, but they're not. If you get a large enough population of people anywhere in the world, you're going to get a proportion of people who break the rules. That's just a fact of humanity, really. And it's unfortunate because, as we know, there are too many pre-existing negative stereotypes about Liverpool, which are by and large wrong. And this plays straight into that sort of thing. And it as much as we don't want it to, it doesn't represent the majority of people, but it does tarnish kind of the whole. I don't want to say it tarnishes the team's achievement because that's a separate thing, but it does feel slightly disappointing when you see kind of Klopp and the players are being quite at pains to basically say, stay at home, we'll do this for you, we'll have a time when we can come together and do this appropriately. And it is a small percentage, but it's a very visible percentage. And when you live in a world where things end up on social media within 2 seconds and it's getting 10,000 retweets, then you can't take it down. So yeah, it was disappointing to see. And I think the other thing as well was that it didn't seem like there'd been a huge amount of proactive planning to stop it happening, which yeah, I would have thought there would have been, because you knew that it was a situation where something like that could happen, and it seemed like it was all kind of quite able to get out of control. But yeah, it doesn't. You want to condone it and you don't want to kind of let it slip, but also I don't think it's fair to say that it taints the achievement as such, if that makes sense.
Ollie, it doesn't spoil it, does it? But you know, Saturday morning, it's sort of 36 hours after the event of Liverpool becoming Premier League champions. You want to be scrolling through Twitter and you want to be seeing some great videos. You want to sort of be seeing all the montages still, and ultimately you're seeing. And you can't avoid it on social media, but you're seeing rival fans saying this is typical Liverpool fans. You're seeing, the club itself rightly putting out a statement condoning it. You've got Joe Anderson, and look, I'm not going to get into my personal thoughts on Joe Anderson on this podcast at the moment, but I'm sure there'll be time to do that at some point. But he's sort of given interviews saying he's crying into his breakfast and this sort of thing. It's just not what we want to be doing on a Saturday morning after winning the Premier League. You know, if we were to put this in, sort of equate this to the Champions League achievements, you know, what are you doing on the Monday morning after the Champions League? You're still watching the goals from the campaign. You're still watching and consuming as much. The narrative quickly shifted in a small section, but still a very visible section because of the area we operate in of social media. And I think anybody who's trying to sort of peddle an agenda and sort of feed this into their own sort of ideas around it just needs to have a think about what they're doing, because it doesn't just harm Liverpool fans. It reflects on all football fans, and if it's not Liverpool this time, it might be them next time. You know, let's see what happens when these clubs win something and in this sort of situation. So really regrettable on the Friday night, particularly, but I just felt like we had to. I think we had to address it. In more sort of positive news, a couple of really, really quick things before we just move on to our last section of the podcast. Sadio Mane, 5 years today. He joined Liverpool.
4, Chris.
4. I'm wishing me life away. 4. I'm going to swing this back around and make it seem like it was actually part of the script show, though, because it feels like he's been here forever, doesn't it, Joel?
Yeah. Me and Ollie were having a chat this morning about Mane and basically how he, I mean, in so many ways, is kind of like a mirror for the development of his team. He arrives as a kind of a very talented but kind of slightly inconsistent, streaky player from Southampton, and people weren't entirely sure what he was going to be or what his ceiling was like. And at that point, Liverpool was something similar. They were a team that had some really good players, some not so good players. They put a run of really good results and performances together and have a bad few weeks. And he comes in, Mane, and he's great that first season. He's playing on the right-hand side. I think he gets 13 goals in the league, and then people forget he's injured for the last couple of months, and we sort of limp over the line to top 4 without him. And his trajectory has been very much in line with the teams ever since. He's made that step up in 17-18 when Salah's obviously kind of come in and he's the star. And Mane's basically asked to change his entire position and move across to the left-hand side, and if anything, becomes even more effective doing that. And then it's around the time of the Bayern Munich game last year, I think, the early months of 2019, I think, where you see Mane really take that step up to becoming from a very good player into one of the top 5 players on the planet, probably. And he's just not regressed at all since then. If anything, he's built on that this season. And yeah, Ollie's written something about him yesterday, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but it's hard to kind of talk about a more complete attacker, the guy for his size to win the amount of headers that he wins. And, you know, he's almost completely two-footed. He's got pace, he's got vision, his technique's incredible. And yeah, I think I'm doing something today on this, but I think you could make a case that he probably he's the catalyst to everything that came afterwards, but I think you probably don't get Salah or Van Dijk or Alisson without the kind of chain of events that Mane sets off in that season.
Ollie, you wrote a brilliant piece yesterday about sort of just the thing of Sadio Mane and what he is and how he is, and, you know, how he's developed. Like we sort of talked about it previously, you know, sort of off air, and about how he reminds me and you of Ronaldo, and how that could be sort of his career trajectory next, because I could see him doing this until he's 32, 33 in a central position. He's not as tall necessarily. He's maybe not as well built, but he's got that same aura about him.
Yeah, he's certainly smaller, and Ronaldo's leaner. I think he's a little bit thicker. The thing that's so impressive with him is the efficiency, and that's what really reminded me when I first thought about the Ronaldo-him comparison for that piece. It was very much about as athletes, the ability to contort in the air, the ability to just run at full speed with the ball, and how unnerving it is for defenders. Because there's only about 5 humans on earth who can run at full flight. With even like Gareth Bale, it used to be a knock the ball ahead, right? So you're not really running with the ball. It's very rare to find someone, and Messi kind of is at 3/4 pace when he's running with the ball too. Yeah, whereas Mane, it's a full flight, which is just so rare. And then the thing that stood out as I was digging through it is just the trajectory of efficiency, and it's all about peak efficiency. Salah is a high volume, high goal scorer. He takes the most shots in the league. He's not the most accurate, and he scores a bunch. Mane, the remarkable thing is he rarely touches the ball. And yet when he does, it's peak efficiency. It's just as many goals. It's rarely any shots. It's every shot is on target. And it's trended that way. It was not like that at all 3 years ago, and then it improves. And now he's at a point where he's as efficient as any player on earth, Vardy, Haaland, Lewandowski, but doing it in a style that those guys just can't replicate. And it's just torturous. There's no way to defend against that. And when you chuck in, you have on the other side the guy in Salah who is just as lethal, though higher volume, with all the components around him. He really is the most complete player, I think, in the team, in terms of he can do anything you want him to, and he unlocks everything for everyone else.
I think just on that, the Mane goal, if it's like an archetypal Mane goal, is probably that last goal against Crystal Palace, the fourth. It's just everything about him. It's the outside to in diagonal run, the pace that defenders just can't live with, and then he's basically nailed that finish. He's done it a few times this season. I think Burnley away, he scores the opener against Leicester at home when he basically just feeds it. He opens his body up and just passes it into the bottom right hand corner, but. Yeah, just to watch his development, basically. He's had like one, other than his injury in his first season, he's had that one bit in the first few months of 17-18 when he looked like he lost his confidence a little bit, and he was kind of second guessing himself, it felt like. And then he gets that
bad Everton one, wasn't it? The Everton game.
Yeah, and he gets a hat-trick against Porto away in that orange kit, and that sort of just brings him back to life again. And then, yeah, what a player. And it's funny to think that people were kind of mildly, not everyone, but there was a kind of slight underwhelming kind of reaction to his signing. It wasn't like we just signed this player who was destined for greatness or anything like that. It was very much a kind of wait and see.
People were moaning that Liverpool hadn't signed A. Goethe and B. Henrik Mkhitaryan in that summer. Yeah. I mean, it just goes to show you that what the people know.
What comes next is interesting with him playing centrally, and I do wonder if we see it a little bit down the stretch, because he put him there for the final half hour against Everton. He was amazing playing in that position against Watford a year ago. It's the same shape of Origi plays on the left. He goes through the middle, and he's really good. If anything, he was let down by Minamino and Origi's movement against Everton. He was exceptional. The strength is what stands out, and then his movement is unbelievable. It's almost like we have this amazing 9 player sat there, and yet he falls behind Minamino now in the pecking order. Salah, when they go to the 4-2-3-1, he's at the head of the spear, whereas he's just lurking there. I mean, if he does move centrally, I think you're right, Chris, that the next 5-6 years trajectory, if he can sustain at this level as players do now, could be hopefully at Liverpool, maybe somewhere else, that he would become just a classic central striker.
He's like a 5'9" target, man. There's that one against Palace when I think it's Van Dijk or Gomez plays a high ball, and he's up against one of their centre backs, and he just leaps in the air, chests it down, and back heels it first time to Firmino. It's just, yeah, he's outrageous.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone trap the ball with the chest so well before. It's almost like he's got a magnetic chest. It is absolutely amazing. One thing I will say about him. And it's something, Liverpool do need to keep an eye on. I mean, I think we'll do a show about this all on its own at some point. I know we've written about this before as well, but I just feel like 2023 signed a new deal in, I think it was November 2018, which was nearly 2 years ago. It feels like he's gone on another level since then. And I feel like he probably needs a new contract fairly soon. But I do think we're in a situation actually where, there's a fair few Liverpool players, sneakily getting to that sort of stage at the moment, where we need to start thinking about new contracts. But yeah, just long may it continue at Liverpool. He's some player. We were going to talk about Jadon Sancho as well, but to be honest, after talking about Sadio Mane, I think it'll be pretty redundant. Who needs Jadon Sancho when you've got Sadio Mane? But we also want to get to the prop bets that we wanted to talk about. So I think we'll park Sancho and a little bit of transfers. We won't be like those people who think that Liverpool winning a title necessarily means that it just means that they can win. They can sign better players now. We'll let the dust settle a little bit on that one. And we'll talk about transfers next week. We'll write about them tomorrow because, people still like to read them. But we'll wait until next week to talk about transfers. So just to finish up, gents, I saw a video of Harvey Elliott basically on sort of social media doing something in the gym. And I just thought, what's he doing? And I realised the football season hasn't finished yet. And Harvey Elliott still actually probably wants to try and get loads of minutes. And so it got me thinking that, Liverpool have won this Premier League earlier than anyone else in terms of games. But there are still 7 games left. So what do we think just in general around how these next 7 games are going to play out for Liverpool? How do we see Klopp playing this? Do we think he'll go for records, or do we think he'll use this as almost as a pre-season? So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll just have a quick fire series of prop bets, if you will, where we sort of say over or under a certain number of metrics. But we'll move on to that in a moment. First of all, Joel, what do you reckon? How do you see Klopp doing this?
I'd be surprised if he's got a kind of preset plan of what he intends to do for now at the end of the season. I think he'll sort of take it as it comes. I'd be very surprised if we don't see the absolute strongest team starting against Man City, because I think first game as champions, with it being them at their place, he'll want to put a bit of a kind of a statement out and try and win that one, or at least get a point. So I think we'll see the strongest team there. And then we've got a block of games afterwards where I think you might see a little bit more changes. I think we've got Villa, Burnley and Brighton in succession, which seems like an opportunity to kind of mix things up a little bit. I don't think we'll be seeing anything drastic like a kind of domestic cup type team at all. I think it'll be mostly the kind of the same players, because I think the players will want to play. I don't think you're going to be able to tell Jordan Henderson and Virgil van Dijk that, sorry lads, your season's pretty much over now. So I think most of them will play. I think you'll see 1 or 2. I think you'll like to have a look at Minamino probably playing a Firmino role and see how that fits, maybe playing alongside Salah and Mane, which we haven't seen too much of yet. The other one I'd really like to see, who I thought looked absolutely fantastic, to be honest, when he came on against Palace, was Neco Williams at right back. I think he's the one. I'd almost put him above Curtis Jones in terms of kind of likelihood of making a serious first team impact soon. I think Jones has got loads of potential, but there's options in midfield, and he's competing with the likes of Ox, Keita, Wijnaldum, all of them. Whereas there is a space at right back for someone who can give Trent a rest every so often, or if Trent's injured or he wants to try something with Trent in midfield, I'd really like to see what Williams looks like in a Premier League game when it's not just a kind of a last 25 minutes job. So I think we'll see him. Elliott also came off the bench against Palace, didn't he? And with Shaqiri almost certainly leaving this summer, there's a little bit of a gap there for the front three. So I think, it'll be nice if Liverpool can get themselves to a position like they were against Palace, where they're sort of comfortably in the lead, and Klopp can kind of use those 5 subs. And I don't think there's a straight choice between rotation and points records. I think it's quite possible that we can make a few changes and still have only got to win 5 out of 7 to get 101, which I think is more than doable.
Ollie, what do you think? Do you agree with that? It's not an either-or situation. He can pretty much do both.
Yeah, I think you can thread the needle. I wrote a piece yesterday which is guessing the lineups for every game the rest of the way. And I think what you kind of build it around City, he's going to play the full first 11. I think just the gap in days helps with that one, and kind of resets for, okay, let's knuckle down for the rest of the season and also prepare for next season. Then the Arsenal-Chelsea doubleheader, I would be surprised if they didn't play the full, what you would consider his first 11 there. Maybe a slight tactical change with the midfield as normal. But the main framework of the first 11. And then I think the experimentation comes in the other ones. I think that the big thing that will be interesting to see, and what I would hope to see, is the Everton game was a bit funky. It was such a bizarre circumstance with the first game back and all that stuff, and the title still hanging over them. I think it has to be like for like changes. And I would imagine it would be more sports science led than even just him, what he wants to do. But everybody gets 5 or everyone gets 6, whatever the number is. And then we'll just rotate 1 in, 1 out. Robertson plays 1 week, Trent the next week, something like that. Particularly with the front 3 and the midfield, I would suspect that. And ideally, we had a piece during the week or last week about Minamino and Firmino playing together, and can they play together, and do they overlap too much? And personally, I think they do. I think it has to be 1-for-1 stylistically as much as you can do. So like Joel said, if Minamino's going to play, well, let's put him in the false nine role if that's the plan going forward, and let him try and get some chemistry going with Salah and Mane, just see what it looks like, rather than putting him on the left and trying to move all kinds of things around. So that's what I think we see is kind of for those 3 highlight games, we see the main team, and then from that it's bits and pieces trying here and there. I am fascinated. When I was going through it, I almost had to force getting the young lads in, because I was like, well, even if you rotate, so you just want Matip in for this game. Well, no, I want to see Vandenberg, I want to see Hoover, or Hoover. I want to see these lads given a shot, but you almost are running out of games when you factor in you would kind of like to get the points total if possible. I do think it's certainly possible that we see all the young lads. It's just, do you fit them in with one match? You say, okay, we're playing Villa, we're going to put everyone in for one. Or do you do this kind of bits and pieces? Let's give Hoover a chance, but he's playing next to Van Dijk, so he's covered, and things like that.
Okay, so we'll run through. I've picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sort of bets, if you will. Obviously, no money is going to exchange hands, but hypothetically, and I'll give you a line, and you've pretty much got to go over under. So let's start with home wins. There are 3 games left, over or under 2.5.
I'll take the over.
Take the over. They win all 3 of the games left at home. That'll be a record.
Villa, Burnley, and Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Yes.
Yes. Although I think Chelsea will be tricky, but I think that, I'll go with yes.
I don't trust that Chelsea team at all.
After what they did.
That's typical of this team. They'll do that, and the next week, and then they'll go on a 3-week slump. I do not trust them at all.
I'd be going the over there. Points over or under 99.5. So will they become Centurions? They're on 86 at the moment, so they need 14 in the last 21.
That's really hard.
I'm gonna say yes. I think
that would come down to how you pick that Chelsea game, right? If you gave them one draw, and let's just say for circumstances' sake they lose the City game,
I still think you get 12 points from Brighton, Villa, Newcastle, and Burnley personally.
And Arsenal as well.
Arsenal.
Newcastle I found as the day that they would, if it was going to be the goodbye to everyone and kind of like everyone get off on holiday early, we're going to make ours a 4-week preseason and all that type stuff. Newcastle is the game where you would think, the final home game's gone, they've lifted the trophy. It's kind of like everyone's out of school type thing, substitute teachers. If they've got that to play for, you think that he still rolls everyone out? Because I guess that would factor into whether they would get there or not.
Yeah, and I also think it will help that it's Newcastle who are pretty much safe and mid-table. Mm-hmm. I think that there's an interesting narrative coming up, and I thought about it there, where you mentioned that they're all about sort of the games against, let's say, Villa and Brighton, more so than Burnley and Newcastle. But Villa and Brighton, I feel like he'll almost feel a duty to pick a very similar team for both, because they're in a very similar situation down at the bottom. If it almost feels like he's not going to basically do and this is not against Rafa, but a Rafa against Fulham and pick, John Achterberg in goal. It will very much be I think he will pick certain teams for certain phases, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm still going over, because I think he'll probably get over the line even against Newcastle on the last day. Joel, you going over under?
I'm going to go over. I think you've seen with this team, when they want something and they have a clearly defined target, they tend to find a way to go and get it. So yeah, I think they only got to win 5. I think they'll do it.
I think it'd be a shame if they didn't. Harvey Elliott minutes, over or under 200.5?
I think under.
I think under. I don't think you'll see much of him.
I don't think we will at all. I think you'll see maybe 10 minutes here or there, and then possibly the last game of the season you would get the full game or 45 minutes. I don't think he's getting anywhere near the game time people would expect, because part of the thing here is the 3-week break, if that's what it's supposed to be, is not a long amount of time, but you also do want to kind of be in rhythm going into next season. So it's the case of, do they keep the foot to the floor because this team needs that? Can they kind of down tools and go again? We haven't seen any evidence that that's what they like to do. All we've seen is they say they rally and they've just mowed through everyone after the heartbreak of last season. So I like Joel said earlier, I can't see anyone in this team being like, oh yeah, I'll take a week off and head off on a holiday. I just can't see it happening.
There's a pecking order thing here, but like if you're playing Harvey Elliott from the start, then you're probably going to have to tell Minamino or Origi or Oxlade-Chamberlain that you're playing a 17-year-old instead.
Yeah.
Like, he's got loads of talent, but I think, we're much more likely to see him sort of do last 10s, last 15s.
Light a candle for Xherdan Shaqiri, who everybody's forgotten about.
Back in training.
Video today, though.
Training, yeah, he's back in training. Mo Salah goals over or under 22.5.
Over.
He's on 17, isn't he?
Ollie said over straight away there.
Over.
He's on 17. Yeah, over, I think.
I think he's over. By the way, that would probably, I think, make him top scorer again, which is, it did better his season from last season.
We've seen when he wants to win a golden boot. He's got everything he can, and now we've got.
Don't be making any runs for him, lads. Oh, poor Minamino's going to be doing all these cracking runs and be the ultimate decoy.
Doing him taking every free kick though from now on.
Well, Fabinho's on them now, by the sounds of it. Adam Lallana, captain's armband, over or under 0.5.
Nah, it's not happening. I don't think.
Really, I think he gets the captain's armband at Newcastle.
I don't know, because Henderson's his best mate, isn't he? So he might do it as a little bit of a favour.
Would it count if he came on and they gave it to him? Or are you saying?
Yeah, do you know what? I'll pay out. I'll pay out.
I think he might end the game as captain. Yeah, I don't think we're going to start a match with him as captain. But
that's one, by the way, Chris forced me to do in a piece like the North Korean dictator. He sent down these Pravda demands that I had to include this in a piece.
I'm
just because he's a mate and they golf and drink together, then he's going to get the captain's armband at a local football club in the most historic season. I know you got the difference between Lallana's return and videos and emotional hugs and Klein, who just like not even mentioned that the guy isn't around anymore. Just tell him.
But Nathaniel Klein maybe hasn't had the impact on Liverpool as Adam Lallana has off the pitch, shall we say. Mm-hmm. That's not to say Klein's not been a nice fella off the pitch, but Adam Lallana has just been an absolute diamond by all accounts. I think it's really sad that Lallana doesn't get a bit of a send-off from supporters. I actually think he's been a really good servant. He's been here 6 years, and all right, he's never always been at his best. But I think Liverpool definitely got the money's worth out from 25 million. You can't moan at that. And then final one, players used over or under 21.5.
The 5 subs things here makes it really difficult because just in my projecting of the starting lineups, which is I had a couple of youngsters in that is maybe not that likely. I got to 20. I feel like it's going to be 21 with subs.
So let's say you got Liverpool.
I had Adrian playing Alisson playing every game, and he probably would give Adrian a game. I would think.
Does he give Lonergan one? Newcastle. Does he bring Lonergan on for 10 minutes?
For 10 minutes.
does he bring? I remember. Was it Arsenal that was Stuart Taylor? I think it was Arsenal that was Stuart Taylor in 2004, maybe. No, it wouldn't have been 2004 because they were going after the Invincibles. I think it might have been 2002. I think they went for it in 2002.
Did they put someone? Did City put someone in net when they put David James up front? Or did they?
Stuart Taylor might have been City actually rather than Arsenal. What a mad career Stuart Taylor's had. Wikipedia that one. Let's say that. I think it might be over. I think he might rotate the bench more than, if you see what I mean. I think we'll see like Hoover 1 week, Williams the next, Jones 1 week. Might even see someone like Leighton Clarkson the next who gets 10 minutes.
Do you think we'll see Lovren again?
I think we'll still see a bit of Lovren.
Can you imagine if that Derby cameo was his last outing for Liverpool?
The best update.
No, let's not go for Lovren. The only negative comments we got from last week was when I made a tongue-in-cheek joke about Lovren's social media use, and the one person who said don't mix politics with football, which is basically a way of saying actually I'm not even going to go down that route. But yeah, pretty much.
Lovren,
yeah, exactly. My Wales views don't really align with Liverpool Football Club's ethos, but there we go. But yeah, I'm going to go over because I can see a situation where he gives maybe some young players time off, like Van den Berg as well, little snippets off the bench. I think he'll maybe rotate So we saw it against Palace where we had Jones, Williams, Elliott. I can see him maybe Hoover, Clarkson.
I don't know what the developmental point would be of giving like Vandenberg 10 minutes. So, like, what is the point of that? Other than just like make the speed of the game?
Just to prove to the taxman that he's real.
I still don't believe
it. He's not a swimmer.
Regen that they've just conned everyone into believing.
I was there on his. I was there on his debut in New York, and he's probably got the best reception I've ever seen for a Liverpool player ever. Because he was the only player Liverpool had signed at that point, and was obviously getting a run out. And it was like Mbappe come on the pitch. It was incredible. Look forward to seeing more of him actually at some point. It's just when he gets the case. But you're going under then, Ollie, Joel. I assume you're going under.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't sat down and done the maths, but it just feels like I think we often think Klopp is more experimental than he really is, sort of thing. I think you probably just more like to see Keita, Ox, Milner, basically the usual ones coming off the bench, Origi. So yeah, I'll go under. Because
there was so much debate over so many of those, though. What I'm saying is I'm a master bookmaker, and I've set the line there.
Definitely done your research over the years, so
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Much to be bank balance's chagrin. But there we go, gentlemen. Thank you very, very, very much for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed this at home. We hope you've enjoyed the second Liverpool.com podcast. We will be doing this every week. We haven't really got a fixed day at the moment. It was a little bit hectic this week, of course, because this was the week that Liverpool became Premier League champions for the first time and for the top flight champions for the 19th time. So yeah, that's pretty much all from us today. Make sure that you please leave us some feedback on either our Twitter accounts at Liverpool.com_. Leave us a nice little message under the YouTube comments, but only nice ones, please. None of this crazy 5G. Sort of right-wing lunacy, and or just drop us a message in general. Keep on listening to all the Blood Red podcasts. There's some absolutely fantastic stuff coming out of both the YouTube channel and the podcast channel as well, and just keep on drinking it in. I think that's the main thing I'd like to say. I think we'd all echo that. Just don't let this glow die down anytime soon, because Liverpool essentially gets to be Premier League champions for at least the next year, and we've waited long enough for it. So cherish it every day and just be thankful that we've got a manager and a set of players who've made it possible. So that's from me, Kristian Walsh, Joel Rabinowitz and Ollie Connolly. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy next week. Enjoy being Premier League champions.